Modern media's depictions of romance are degenerate to say the least. And to illustrate just how good we could have had it, I'm going to be comparing two works, a film and a TV show released 65 years apart, both of which concern themselves with commenting on relationship ideals and pitfalls. There is a lot to break down when asking, how did we get here? And so, I argue that the reason the modern dating landscape looks like the twisted love child of an SNL skit and a Bosch painting is owed, in no small part, to the art we consume. Reality TV shows such as Love Island and Too Hot to Handle seek to engross viewers in the most impulsive, vapid, and crude aspects of dating culture while remaining altogether indifferent about the impact those attitudes towards sex and romance have on the people involved. In fiction, it's no better, with shows such as Sex Education and Euphoria blurring the line between escapist fantasy and voyeuristic porn. Not only are these shows about high school students engaging in depraved and often traumatizing activities, but they're watched by teenagers in the real world. Can we really say it's a coincidence that the modern dating scene is such a mess while these are the types of stories young people are having impressed upon them? The sexual revolution has taken its toll on the modern dating marketplace, and an important factor in that equation is the symbiotic relationship between public perception of romance and the messages and themes pervading art, be it film, music, or books. Which came first, the chicken or the egg? The cultural decline or the perverse propaganda? I don't even know where to begin in answering that question, but what I do know is that things don't have to be this way. Sure, we can't just flip a switch and rewind time 70 years, but we can take inspiration from the art that was made back then in deciding how we act moving forward. Which brings me to 7 Brides for 7 Brothers, a movie that must be seen to be believed in our era of progress and enlightenment. The story takes place in 1850s Oregon and sees the eldest of 7 brothers, Adam Ponape, mosey on into town and cavalierly declare that he's looking for a wife.
There's 7 of us men, me and my 6 brothers. Place is like a pigsty and the food tastes worse. So I made up my mind. Next time I come into town to trade, I'm going to bring me back a wife.
Well, that's a fine thing, I must say. Thinking you can come here and trade for a wife like she was a bag of meal.
The film wastes no time in establishing its family-friendly atmosphere and, right after our main character's motivations, the fact that it's a musical.
We ain't met yet, but I'm a-willin' to bet you're the gal for me.
That same day he meets Millie, the film's emotional core. Her maternal fervor combined with her gentle demeanor help ground what is admittedly an unbelievable sequence of events. In that, she marries Adam after all of 2 minutes of convincing and only on the ride back home mentions how she's always wanted a man, singular, in her life.
Always back at the inn when I'd hear all the men yelling and screaming for their dinners, I'd think how wonderful it would be to have one man to cook and care for. Just one man.
Yeah, Adam just didn't tell her that he has 6 brothers.
Well, just remember your ABCs. Adam, Benjamin, Caleb, Daniel, Leaf, and Frank, and Gideon.
When they get back to the Ponape farm, we watch as Millie's expression of innocent excitement turns to that of shock and horror. Modern sensibilities tell us she has every right to divorce him on the spot because he lied to her. But remember, people, these are the good old days, where rights and entitlements took a back seat to responsibilities and promises. Yes, it was crummy of Adam not to tell her about his brothers, but what did she expect marrying a backwoodsman the same day she met him? The characters and situations depicted in this movie are deliberately exaggerated in order to convey its themes in unique and funny ways. Millie basically becomes their mother, cooking for them, cleaning up after them, and eventually teaching them proper etiquette.
At a what?
She doesn't stay begrudgingly and resent the brothers for forcing her into servitude. She accepts the challenge with grit and makes the best of her circumstances, staying true to her wedding vows and actively working towards the life she had dreamed of for so long. Inspired by Adam's marital success, the brothers seek Millie's advice for getting wives of their own.
When you meet a girl, don't grab her like she was a flapjack. Hold off for a while. Offer her your arm. When you've got her alone, steal your arm around her. You gotta court a girl to get her.
Sometime later, the Ponapes attend a barn raising and burst into a 7-minute-long dance sequence showcasing physical strength, dexterity, and creativity. With the local girls starting out interested in but not won over by the brothers, the dance sequence represents their competition in the dating marketplace, wherein their success depends on their ability to impress and entertain. Family movies can be deep too, people. As the barn goes up, Millie's lessons in etiquette go out the window. The sore losers who lost their girls to the brothers begin lashing out in childish ways, prompting Adam to tell them to stick up for themselves, leaving the barn unraised and Millie in tears. One somber musical number later, Adam does his best to motivate the dispirited brothers by recounting the tale of the Sabine women, a story from a book that Millie gave him.
Oh, yes, them women was sobbing, 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 passing them nights.
You know, before watching this movie, I had never heard of the Sabine women, and Adam claims it's a real historical event, so maybe it's worth it to look it up to see if it even applies to their Modern sensibilities tell us that this is an inconsiderate and downright prejudiced way to incorporate a historical tragedy into a love story. But this is Seven Brides for Seven Brothers, a film made at a time before political correctness had neutered and defanged comedy. And don't get it mixed up, that's what this is. Intentionally absurd.
Meow! I hear the cat outside.
Hey, you got mine.
The ensuing chase through a snow-covered pass results in an avalanche that separates the girls from their families for the whole winter. Remember when men made a spectacle of their love?
Now, Millie.
This house is for the girls. You're not going to set foot in it as long as they're here. You're going to eat and sleep in the barn with the rest of the livestock.
The following cold and isolated months see the girls begin to enjoy their stay there, fawning over the brothers when they think no one is looking, pranking them while they work, and helping Millie around the farm after she reveals she's pregnant. The good news only intensifies the girls' desires for their corresponding brother, as up till now they've occupied their time wondering whose beds they're sleeping in and what it would be like to have a man and baby of their own.
We've had a blizzard every day for the past 2 months. I'm going crazy shut up in this house.
Alice, why don't you read out loud to us?
No.
Oh, we've heard this book 3 times already.
Yes, go on. Read us about the sobbing women. Please, Alice.
With the long winter now past, like so long that Millie's baby is born, the snow has melted and the townsfolk rush to reclaim their women from the Pontaby farm. Adam confronts the brothers to tell them that they need to willingly give the girls back to their families. Although initially opposed, Gideon takes Adam's side and helps convince the others to do the right thing. Their logic being, the only way to keep the girls is to acknowledge that their methods weren't the most savory or respectful in the first place. And so the brothers resolve to return the girls in the hopes of preserving what's left of their reputation and relationships. Only, the girls caught wind of Adam's plan and chose to run away. Is farm life really that good? Here we have the film's climax, the townsfolk storming the Pontaby farm while the brothers are out in the open, chasing down and manhandling the women who no longer want to be rescued. Even the parson turned up and is dismayed at hearing the sound of a crying baby, leading to an ending I couldn't have expected but was more than satisfied with.
A while back I heard a wee babe crying in the house. Whose is it? Whose is it? Don't be afraid to tell.
Mine!
With the fathers unable to tell who the baby belongs to and the girls and brothers having no intention of parting ways anytime soon, the film ends with a shotgun wedding for all 12 of them. We have achieved 7 brides for 7 brothers. Thank you for sticking around to this part of the video. If you enjoyed it up until now, then the bad news should be obvious. They don't make them like this anymore. Since I went to the extreme for the 1950s, I'll be doing the same for today's media.
I'm sorry. I know your generation relied on flowers and father's permission, but it's 2019. And unless you're Amish, nudes are the currency of love. So stop shaming us.
Euphoria is an interesting show. If not for the adult themes and scandalous plot threads, then certainly for the creative choice to focus the narrative on a group of high school students. I have only watched season 1 and have no intention of enduring any more, so please don't mistake this for an in-depth review of the series, because what Euphoria represents is just as, if not more, important than what it is. The story follows Rue, a mentally ill 17-year-old who spent her last summer in rehab after overdosing. I'm fuzzy on what exactly she was doing that triggered the overdose, since she's not very picky with what goes in her body. None of these characters are, for that matter, physically or chemically. Rue is the main character as well as narrator, but the show jumps around to the perspectives of various at-risk youths, each involved in their own vices, whether it be manipulation, promiscuity, stalking, or substances. The more you learn about these individuals and the tangled webs they weave, the clearer it becomes how flawed and multifaceted they all are. Some are conniving and paraphilic because of childhood trauma. Some are drug-addicted and emotionally detached because of persisting psychological unrest, and some are all of the above. But none of these people are fucking normal. There's not one functional happy family to be found here. They're all either broken or in the midst of a compounding list of defects and deficiencies, and the 2 most normal characters end up getting roped into everyone else's bullshit against their better judgment. They're so multidimensional that they're all jaded, debased liars by the time they're 18. What groundbreaking storytelling is this? Wolf of Wall Street meets High School Musical? Who thought that was a good idea? Interesting. And did anyone at any point in the production process stop to ask if all this was necessary or protest the sheer extremity of what was shown in the first episode alone? Oh, this just keeps getting better. And by better, I mean the impending collapse of our society. It's weird how the nude scenes seem completely arbitrary when you take this into account. This is just weird. This is just creepy. I have no words for how depressing this is. Seriously, what is going on in this guy's head that he's so nonchalant about these women's soundness of body and mind when it comes to acting out scenarios that they themselves deem questionable? Here's a good question. How do you revisit shows like Euphoria? After the shock value has worn off, what's left? Well, the cinematography is creative at least. It really makes those teenager sex scenes and life-threatening drug trips stand out. The dialogue, though, is nothing but immersion-breaking.
Yeah, I'm Ethan.
Please don't be a mass shooter.
What?
Nice visuals and good acting can't redeem the show from its criminal concept and perverse messaging. Go ahead, stick a warning label on it. That's not going to stop young people from watching it. A content disclaimer is as good as an invitation to the impressionable mind. Come and see what the grown-ups are hiding from you. They make it sound scary, but you think you can handle scary because your brain literally has no reference for the horrors of addiction, degeneracy, and trauma dumping. Look, I'm under no illusion that Euphoria's characters are intended to represent real people. The show is a thematic and tonal exploration of trauma. That much is clear. It's the degree to which everyone is affected by or involved in trauma-related activities that is ridiculous. And the synergy between those ideas in the show and people's perceptions of sex and dating in the real world is self-evident.
I didn't build this system. Nor did I fuck it up.
Look, bottom line, y'all need to walk into this party like your pussy costs $1 million.
She was on a mission to end her junior year as a woman of questionable morals.
I know that this movie and this series are polar opposites in their portrayals of love, but that's exactly my point. Where, today, are the positive depictions of dating and romance? Where, in the 1950s, were the depressing, disenchanting, and voyeuristic tone pieces that pass for high art nowadays? The difference in their subject matter reflects the attitudes of their respective eras, and, speaking for myself, having been born in the Euphoria era, watching Seven Brides for Seven Brothers was equally as shocking as it was refreshing. But Lumo, that's just patriarchal heteronormative propaganda. Fine, let's work with that premise, that all art is propaganda. Is the sleazy, dysfunctional propaganda of Euphoria somehow an improvement? If you're going to consume art with the knowledge that it is trying to reshape your understanding of reality, then why not choose good art? I get it. Sometimes, in order to send a message, it helps to bend the rules of reality just a bit. To exaggerate and embellish on actual issues that real people face in their everyday lives. In doing so, the art can provide a more engaging medium for the viewer, a more inviting lens through which to observe the challenges faced by the characters, and then to draw a conclusion or judgment on how we might act, or should act, in those same circumstances. This is true for Euphoria, just as it is true for Seven Brides for Seven Brothers. The difference between the messages at the core of those works is the difference between a premium steak and a Tide Pod cocktail. One promotes strength, health, and longevity, the other guarantees an exciting but agonizing demise. Ask yourself, do you want to be like Rue, sleepwalking through life, a perpetual victim of circumstance? Or do you want to be like Millie, a brave and resilient spirit actively shaping her own future? Do you want to be like Nate, an obsessive and manipulative bully moments away from a tantrum? Or do you want to be like Adam, an adventurous and optimistic rascal who motivates his loved ones to both assert themselves and accept accountability when it's called for? Whereas the lessons in old movies are to get your hopes up and make as many babies as possible, today's media teaches us to be suspicious of everyone we meet and regret even being born. That's literally the first 3 minutes of Euphoria, by the way. Rue expressing resentment for her life because she made bad choices and now has to live with the consequences.
That's all I wanted. Those 2 seconds of nothingness.
Euphoria portrays everything from domestic violence to teenagers being manhandled by police to a girl getting an abortion and does so in deliberately distressing and bleak ways. Instances of romance or sex are framed as creepy and intrusive, and the traumatic moments are made as traumatic as possible. Seven Brides, on the other hand, takes an actual unsavory historical event and reframes it in a wholesome and comical way. Right before the shotgun wedding, some of the brothers are found rolling in the hay with their girls. The innuendo would fly right over a kid's head, and that's okay because they don't need to be exposed to those ideas at an early age. But that's the closest the film comes to mentioning sex at all.
I'm gonna have a baby.
Millie! Oh, Millie, sit down. Get comfortable. Are you all right?
If I could be a different person, I promise you, I would.
You gotta call her my darling, my dear, my Precious, my pet.
You fuck her like the horse she is. You kick her ass to the curb.
You've got to be above such things. You've got to act gentlemanly and well-spoken and show the girls that you have some etiquette.
There are two different types of dick pics.
Which way, modern man? Unrealistic, cynical, and degenerate art? Or exaggerated, lighthearted, and aspirational art? The choice is yours. Where, in the 1950s, were the depressing, disenchanting, and voyeuristic tone pieces that pass for high art nowadays? That was a jet. A jet just flew over my house. World War III on our doorstep, and I'm ranting about Euphoria.